Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. My name is Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got Rohan. Hey, Rohan.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. And today we're joined by another Canadian, Mike. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Today's episode of the Home Assistant Podcast is brought to you by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu Casa. Easily access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that supports the Home Assistant and ESP Home projects. Configuration is done via the user interface, so no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or any YAML. All right, Mike. You are from Canada. I think, like 2 hours away from Rohan?
Yeah. Supposedly just down the 401. You know, it's close but far.
That's right.
Yeah. So I want to start with where you started from in your home automation journey, but I guess how we got introduced was last year we ran a competition, I think celebrating the Home Assistant Podcast birthday. We wanted to hear how people were using Home Assistant, and you were one of the runner-up entries that we had on the podcast. We'll rehash that out in a minute, and I'm going to have so many questions for you because I think, the premise of your automation is all about your kids and your family and how that's really helped you. So I've got a ton of questions for you there. So I guess if we can go back to how did you get started in home automation? Is Home Assistant where you started, or have you been doing it a long time?
Yeah, so pretty much straight off the bat, I think it was the only choice that I was aware of. I run a bunch of services at home. I've got a whole, virtualization setup.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my one buddy mentioned it to me. He said, "Hey, look what I found. This looks really neat." And I said, "Oh, that's cool. I have no reason to use that. I don't have anything that could work with it." And then I think for my birthday or Christmas, my wife ended up getting me the Hue Gen 1, starter set.
The starter kit. Yeah, you get
the starter kit.
Circle
so
hub
this is
and 3 globes and
Exactly. So this is entirely her fault,
Of course.
and she hasn't complained about it. So I think I've got it designed well enough that it's usable. And even then, I was still like, I didn't put 2 and 2 together on it, and I was like, who needs this stuff? This is silly, But you just turn on the light switch. Like, why? You don't need this stuff. This is, I've got a timer for my outside lights. Now here I am. I don't know how many automations later, and that's where I'm at now. And that was at our old place. We moved about 2 years ago, so I've started putting in a lot more effort in the new place because there was that. Oh, we don't know if we're moving or not, and that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah. And I guess in the competition entry, you talk about, the first line is I have twins, right? Which makes life complicated.
Yeah. So that's the entire impetus for the move. We used to live out in the suburbs of the town I'm in, and my wife doesn't drive.
Right.
So when we found out we were having twins, she was like, "We are moving closer to transit, to our downtown area where she can walk and do things." And so that kind of started to look for the house, and we found a place that matched, and it was a brand new build. So I could,
nice.
I got the builders to run me double Ethernet runs to every room and, all that stuff to set up and be ready to, wire everything together.
Nice. So doing that build and doing all those Ethernet runs, have you utilized anything of that yet, or have you got spare conduit in the walls that you can run wires into in the future if you need to? And have you started doing anything with that yet?
No spare conduit. I'm not using any of the Ethernet in any of the rooms yet for anything. But I'm sure, when my girls are older, they're going to want a TV. So I'll have to set up like a Apple TV and stream stuff like that. Yeah. So, it's not there yet, but it was future proofing. But all that terminates down into my basement in a little closet that I have all the stuff that runs, Home Assistant and everything else.
That's cool.
So, and that leads us to a great, segue. What are you running Home Assistant on in that little box?
So I have a NUC. I think it's an Intel i3, i5, I forget. But on that, I'm running Proxmox as the hypervisor. And then I have another VM running a whole bunch of Docker containers, and everything Home Assistant related is in one. I use Docker Compose.
Right.
It'll spin up Home Assistant, Zue.js. I can't even remember half the other ones.
Yeah, there's so many, right?
So it's all, update is just update the containers, it restarts, it's happy, everything launches, and I don't have to think about it too much.
I like it. So so twins come into your life. You've got I guess time poor all of a sudden.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's
That's right.
so much kid stuff behind you. What was the first automation that you sort of found useful, or that you wanted to build as soon as you found out, or as soon as twins arrived?
Yeah, so we moved in here in August, and they were born in December, so I had a few months to get the nursery ready and plan things
right.
out. So I was putting a lot of thought into that, and it was initially, okay, we're going to be changing diapers at 2 a.m, like 5 times a night. I don't want to turn on the overhead light. What do I do? And so I got some cheap LED Zigbee strip off Amazon, and I've tacked it to the back of. We have a dresser in there that is also the change table, and that I had a IKEA outlet plug toggle switch combo, and I just reused the toggle switch button and mounted it to the side of the dresser as well, so that way, you don't have to. I don't got to find my phone. I don't got to do anything.
You don't have to say anything.
My wife can use it. My mother-in-law can use it because she was helping us out so much. So, that was the primary thing. And anything since then, I've sort of been tacking on a little bit things to make our lives easier, because, they were 3 months when COVID hit. So a lot of the stuff I had planned for to allow for grandparents and aunts and uncles to just hit this one button. I've got a little Xiaomi, the circle buttons that mounted on the outside of the nursery door. And literally, it's like, you want to put them to sleep, hit that button, and it'll do the rest of the stuff. And that is slowly built up over time. But that was the starting, okay, what do I do? I'm not going to have time when they're born. So how do I prepare, essentially?
Yeah, that's nice. So I'm guessing, just that one button that does the whole thing. It's actually, I've just started we've started a nighttime routine with my daughter, and same thing, right? I think we've got the big square Xiaomi buttons that are Zigbee. Push that if it's nighttime, it'll dim the lights, start playing some music, and then push it again, lights go out. It's so incredibly helpful.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. And I've added to it over time. So now the whole sequence is you hit the button. They're 2.5 now, so it's changed over time. So the current setup is essentially hit that button, it'll turn off the overhead light, it'll turn on a little fan. I've got some some ESP outlet relays, running ESP home on them, and turn on the fan, turn on the white noise. In the winter, it'll determine whether it's cold enough or whatever, with the temperature sensor I have in there to turn on the humidifier.
Nice.
And now that they're older, the side of the crib's not on either, so that button on the outside basically flips an input boolean to say nap mode's on, and it does a whole whack of stuff. It's probably the most important switch I have in the entire automation setup right now. But I've also got one of those, Xiaomi door detection things. So the problem we're having right now is they'll get up out of bed at whatever, or even when it's time for them to go to sleep, we'll go downstairs, start watching a movie or something, and they'll get up and open the door. And if they're being quiet about it, we don't know. So that'll push a notification to our phone and do a few other things. It also, we can talk about it in a little bit, but it also sent some notifications to the TV. That was the what you mentioned off the top of the show, which was the contest thing. But yeah, that's the nap mode in general.
Yeah, I like it because it's interesting. We had a guest a couple of episodes ago now. I can't remember who it was. Apologies, but they were saying that they're one of the impetus of having moving to an armed night mode of their home alarm system was that their daughter was able to get into the garage and go into the car without them knowing in the middle of the night, right? And waking up and not finding their daughter.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so yeah, can totally see why you've had to, put that in place, right?
We have a gate at the top of the stairs, which is not so much of an automation, and sometimes I even forget to lock it closed. So maybe I'm going to put a door sensor on that to remind us, hey, you left that open.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. And then sometimes I do wonder, right? Like my default is to always say, oh yeah, I'll put a window sensor on it, right? Or like I'll somehow get it into Home Assistant. But then maybe I should just wouldn't it be easy to just buy a spring that then automatically closes the gate, maybe? Like just take technology out of the mix. I don't know. I always go put in.
How simple can this be, right? I think that is my default design setup. If my mother-in-law can't use it when she's helping us with the kids, don't set that up.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, what other kind of design things are you taking into consideration for building for other people like that, right? So whether it's your mother-in-law or whatever other family or friends or whoever.
Yeah, it's how do I make this as simple as possible without being annoying, and how do I get the maximum value out of it for me as well, having the ability to do it from the complicated side of things. Mm-hmm. One other challenge we had with the kids was we have a dog. She's lovely. She doesn't bark or do anything until someone rings the doorbell, and then she goes absolutely bananas. And so when the kids were younger and COVID was going on, we're getting lots of deliveries. We're getting groceries delivered, we're getting diapers delivered, all that stuff. And of course, delivery person would show up 5 minutes into nap time starting, and it's just like, okay, we get to sit down and have a break.
Yeah, always the
ding dong, and dog goes crazy, and then the kids are up, and it's okay. There goes our afternoon of being able to sit down and have a coffee and maybe do some dishes, and, have some adult time. So I quickly got very upset with that.
Yeah.
And my wife ended up putting a piece of tape on the doorbell that said, "Please knock," because she'll bark when someone knocks, but she doesn't go ballistic.
Right.
And I said, okay, perfect. That'll be fine. Whatever. Of course,
ding dong.
Delivery person just walks up, slams the doorbell. They're running to go do the next delivery because, they're overloaded. And I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And I think, just a quick Google, I think Frank had a blog post somewhere where he just, took a little relay and an ESP device and used DSP Home to do it. And of course, in Europe, I think that's where he's from. Doorbells are direct current. Over here, at least in North America or in Canada, anyways, they're AC current.
Yeah.
So I had to take a bit of extra parts, and I need to cover it with something. Right now, it's just a mess of wires. Nice. But essentially, I've got a ASP device with integrated relay, and I found like a power supply for like a 12 volt, motorcycle battery or something that gives me the right voltage for powering the output. And I've wired that in line with the doorbell, and it looks at that nap mode input boolean. And if nap mode's on, don't ring the doorbell. And to your earlier question, don't be annoying. I used to have it play on some Sonos speaker to say, hey, someone's at the door. That worked for a little bit. My wife got annoyed with it, and also the dog caught on that's the new doorbell.
Oh,
so So quickly, I said, okay, that's fine. I'll stop saying, playing the "Hey, someone's at the door" voice to, the Amazon lady off the Sonos speaker, and just push a notification to our phones, and that's been working great since, just through the Home Assistant app, which I run and my wife runs and actually uses as well. So keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's the problem I have with that though is how do you get non-home people to get those notifications, right? So how would you get the mother-in-law to have those notifications that someone at the door if both you and your wife are out, right?
We haven't had that problem a lot yet. It's not something I've had to design for, but now that people are starting to go out more, at least here in Ontario, and we don't get out a lot because finding babysitters for a night is asking family or asking for adding an extra cost to your evening.
Sure.
It's a design problem I'm running into more that I'm going to have to try and solve. So I'll have to be, is nap mode on? Are we both away? Play something. I haven't figured that out yet. It hasn't been a problem yet. I guess that's the other thing. A lot of my design stuff is where's identify the problem, identify a solution, implement the solution is sort of how it goes.
Yeah, makes sense. Have you thought about like tablets on the wall or anything like that as another way to interact with the house?
Not yet. It's I have a Trello list of like when I think of something, and honestly, when I listen to the podcast and I get some sort of inspiration from somebody else's story, I go, oh, that's a great idea, and like I'll throw it in my to-do list. So I've got probably a to-do list a mile long, and I don't think tablets are high on the list. I don't know how my spouse would feel about that yet.
Yep.
And also, then it's designing a UI for everybody else in such a way that they, how do they interact with it? So
that's a good point.
If I can just keep it to light switches and keep it as normal of a house as possible, that's probably the best way to go about it. But I've got I guess sort of a display. I've got an Apple Watch, and I use the Home Assistant app, and you can actually template out a bunch of stuff. And I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but you can see I've got a bunch of like in the center area here, I've got a bunch of like icons, and it only updates every about 15 minutes, but I don't look at my watch that often. So I think I forget on the Home Assistant Discord, I lurk in there sometimes, and I think Zach, the guy who writes the app, was having a conversation with someone about that, and I went, oh, that's a great idea. So I have some status. I just used emojis. Nice. The lock icon to say is the front door locked. Yeah. An up arrow for the garage is open. A down arrow for the garage is closed. Yeah. And then a few other, like I got the AC temperature, like what's the house temperature, and then more specifically, what's my kids' room's temperature, because they're above the garage and can get quite warm. And I don't have a good way to force more cold air up there. And so, it reminds me to go put a fan in their door to blow some cold air in there in the summer, sort of thing. So, and then I never remember we have an alternating garbage schedule. Like one week it's just recycling and green waste, and the other week it's garbage, garbage and all that. Yeah. And so there's actually an integration that pulls from the API from my region what the schedule is. So I didn't have to like program a schedule because it always changes around Christmas and New Year's and holidays and stuff. And so I put a little like trash bin emoji on there on the night before garbage day, and the recycling symbol. It just reminds me. I'll look at it.
This is what you've got to do.
Usually after lunch or whatever. I go, oh yeah, today's that day. I gotta take out. I gotta go change the diaper bin and do all that stuff. So it doesn't push me notification. It doesn't. It's not in your face. It's just sort of a gentle reminder. you don't look at your watch all day long, but hey, what time is it? Oh, right, I got to take out the garbage tonight. So that's,
Yeah. So it's like what, like every, like, I don't know, whatever your garbage day is, so like Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, the emoji just pops up with like recycle bin or garbage can or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. Along with all the other status information I have in there that are just emoji based, just to try and compact all that information into the smallest few lines as possible.
Is that a community API, or is that like a separate third party app that actually has, because
Nope. It's all through the Home Assistant app.
No, I mean where you're pulling the schedule from.
Oh, the schedule. Yeah. So I think it's called Recollect is the integration name.
Okay.
Let me just double check here.
Yeah, I think that's an actual official integration in Home Assistant.
Oh, that's cool.
There's an official integration in Home Assistant called Recollect. Now, I don't think they're using an official API. You have to like go get, you have to use the app or their website, if I remember correctly, to get like the code for your area and a whole bunch of other things. Like, I'm happy, and I'm very surprised that it hasn't broken yet. So whoever wrote that, thank you, and whoever on the the Recollect Waste side hasn't broken their API yet, like other things I've had to fix. Thank you.
Thank you for not breaking it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some good like hacks add-ons as well that you can find in the Hack Store. So, and they just use dates, right? For a long time, I was just using a template sensor, literally because we're just on a rotating fortnightly roster, right? Like, so if it's an even week, it means it's recycling. If it's an odd week, it means it's green waste. I did run into the occasional issue where, like, if you get 53 weeks or the week numbers change after New Year's Day, right? Then you just have to update your template once. But no, with the I think I'm using I can't remember what it's called now. It's like garbage collection or something like that. It's one of the hacks add-ons. You just put in your schedule, and it will add in like in a calendar in Home Assistant as well what week it is, so you can see what upcoming what you need to do. And then I just have a push notification to the phone, right? Like Sunday, I think, is our night that I have to go out on, and just before, I think 30 minutes before sunset, send a reminder to say, hey, make sure you put the bins outside. I've also got an input select to say if the bins are out on the street, and then the following day when they need to come back inside, another reminder will pop up and say, hey, don't forget to bring the bins inside, because it gets late, it gets dark, and I go, crap, I haven't brought the bins in, right?
There's so many times when it's just out in the driveway, and I'm like, my wife's like, this is embarrassing. We are the only people with our stuff still outside. I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that.
And you got like the junkies looking, oh yeah, these guys must be on holiday. I'll come over to them later.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Take their TV or something, right?
No, honestly, it's not even that.
I tend to be walking
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I just tend to be walk the dog a few times, so I just walk out the front door. Oh yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
What you should do, Phil, is get like a Bluetooth, low energy Bluetooth sensor, and then have actually, I think this just released. They have the Bluetooth relay through ESP devices, which is super cool.
Yep.
And then stick one of those in your garage, and if it's not close, then you didn't bring them in, Phil.
I've thought about that. I've thought about
but that's overcomplicating it.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I could just I also got how do I ensure that when the garbage truck picks it up, that it doesn't put the Bluetooth tracker into the garbage, and then I've lost, like a nice Bluetooth tracker device. Yeah, right, straight in the rubbish.
Well,
right?
the ones here, because we have, I don't know how it is for you, Mike, but we have like blue boxes, right? So they're literally just like the box. I know like some places like City of Toronto has like the actual like pails with the covers and everything like that. We don't have that here.
No. We're just the bins. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and typically, because they've got so many houses to hit, right? I don't blame them. They take it, they chuck it in, and then chuck the box, right? And I've literally seen one guy, like, he chucked it too far. He runs over, just starts kicking it all the way to the house, right? And it's like, trackers aren't built for that.
Yeah, no.
So, but that's the other side of the problem, right? Where I'm not even worried about the tracker like falling apart. I'm worried about like, kudos to the boxes, because they hold up pretty well considering like the abuse they go through. But I've literally seen mine get kicked down the street. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also another battery to worry about too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could do like a passive BLE sensor, right? So like exactly like how they have like with like RFID tags and like stuff like that, and you just stick it kind of on the side of it. And they're not expensive, but again, I would be worried about, it getting thrown onto something and like cutting the radio and stuff like that. And then now it's like another thing I have to deal with, right?
Yeah, it's overcomplicated.
It's easier for me to just look out the window.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's it, right? I think that's where, just if it's outside of the window, not there, I guess.
yeah.
Cool. So you mentioned before that so you started with the Philips Hue kit. Then you mentioned before you got Z-Wave as well. So have you like sort of got a mishmash between Zigbee, Z-Wave? Have you moved on to another one, just kept them both running? What's sort of your
I
mix?
use whatever I think is going to work the best for the given situation and isn't costing an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
So at the old place, I before we decided to start moving, I was like, okay, I want more lights. I want more stuff.
Yeah.
So I picked up some, I think GE Jasco Z-Wave things, and I wired it to our front hall light. So somebody came home, light turns on. And if we weren't home back when we didn't have kids, we went out and did things before COVID too. It would, if we're not home, it would. I have an automation that doesn't fire very often anymore, but at just before sunset, I have an automation that'll run to say, "You're not home. Is the dog home?"
Mm-hmm.
And it'll, yes, no response in the notification through the Home Assistant app, and that'll set another flag to say that the dog's home by themselves or not, and then I'll turn on a light, leave them a light on. That's sort of where that went. And when we moved, I ripped those 2 switches out of the wall. Thankfully, it wasn't 50 or 60 switches I had to rewire or anything like that.
Yeah.
But since we moved, I've added a few more Z-Wave switches. The ones that I really like so far are the Innovelli ones.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of their switches and one of their dimmers. My basement here, the lights above can dim. But I've been trying to buy more, and there's just no chip supply at the moment. So I think Innovelli is coming out with a blue. They do colors for their models. I think they're coming out with a blue version that's an integrated switch and dimmer, and it uses Zigbee.
Interesting.
I haven't looked recently. Yeah, I haven't looked recently whether it's available or not yet, but I think they're switching probably due to supply chain constraints on chips.
Sure.
I've been looking to try and do a few more switches, but there's just no stock. So, most of my wall switches right now are Z-Wave, but I'd have no qualms about doing a mix of both. It's just sort of what works for the given application and what can I get my hands on right now is more the issue. The other thing that I can't get a hold of is I think Innovelli sells a fan controller that's Z-Wave. It's out of stock. I'd really love to automate. I've got a ceiling fan in my bedroom that my wife doesn't want it running overnight, but we turn it back on again in the morning, and then she forgets to turn it off when she comes downstairs to go to work. And leaves that light on, and there's all those fun things that I'd like to do, but it's just I can't get a hold of them, and if I can, I don't have the budget right now because I'm paying for 2 kids in daycare. So
I wonder, can you use a dimmer for the fan control? Because I've seen things here like down under, and it looks like from what I can see, the research I've done, doing like the big overhead ceiling fans, right? To control the speed of those, it's just like our switches down here are just dimmers. So could you do something similar up there?
I don't believe so. I believe the wiring for my fan is there's a remote in the wall, and it actually wirelessly talks to a controller, and the fan motor itself is actually DC. So you need that AC input and then the DC fan control for the motor. At least that this style of fan. I'm sure we could probably even get one here that's similar to that, but that's just not what I have installed.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's finding something smart that can do that smart fan control. And some even the nicer ones can like modulate the speed so it ends up feeling like a breeze outside. So I'm sort of wanting to go that route, but I can't find one that's cost effective and also in stock.
Yeah. I think
we talked about the Innovelli switches like ages ago, and I think I wanted to. I would have loved to use them because they got like the lights that you can change color, like
Yeah.
for status and all that. Like really cool. But I don't think they make them for the Australian Z-wave frequency. So obviously out of luck there. But I'm hoping
Is the Zigbee frequency the same, or is it different
Zigbee's,
too?
and that's why I'm hoping, like you mentioned, like they're moving more towards like a Zigbee frequency. Then that should be able to like be more internationally recognizable, right? They would just need to get certifications on all the markets they want to go into. But
they got the certifications on their Z-Wave, so I don't see why they wouldn't for that. I really like their switches. I have, now you mentioned it, the LED. I changed the color based on. I'm sure I could do more complicated things, but right now are all the doors locked?
Yep.
Normal blue default color that they have. If a door is unlocked, it changes to red.
Nice.
The only dimmer I have right now, actually, just over here, I have a switch for the hall in the basement, and then a dimmer for these ones.
Yeah.
And the dimmer one, I change color for the garage door. If the garage door's up, red, and then same with the switch here. Is the doors locked or unlocked? Because we don't spend as much time down here in the basement at the moment. I'm sure we'll do more in the winter with the girls. This is sort of the play area.
Yeah.
But did I close the garage door? My watch status doesn't update. I think it's just a limitation on the Apple stuff. It doesn't update often enough. So it's just a visual. Oh crud! I forgot to close that when I
absolutely
came inside. So
yeah. There's actually even a little article that someone by the name of Nick Thompson wrote from WWT that was shared with me a while ago, where they leverage, again, WebEx endpoints, API endpoints to say, hey, are you on a call? Are you not? Whatever. And to change the status color of those LEDs while that's happening. So if because the idea is typically the light switches when you walk into a room, right? So you can look if, let's say, your partner or kids or anybody, like even a guest that's coming in, you're on a call, they don't necessarily realize. They can say, oh, red light, okay, let me back out of the room, or whatever color, right? So it's
I'm sure I'll get there.
Yeah.
It's not a problem yet, so I haven't had to design the solution.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like to use the Philips Hue bulbs around the house, like, because I don't have those switches, right? So if dishwasher's clean, then lights around the house are pink to sort of give that subtle, hey, go empty the dishwasher sort of thing. But that's the brilliant use case of those, like the lights right in those switches. I love it.
Yeah, I just wish I could get more of them.
Oh, I know, right? Like.
Do you find that, like, so in the new house that you built, because again, one of the problems that I've had, and one of the reasons I really like Lutron, is because of how thin their smart switches, whatever, are, right? The light switches and stuff. Do you find that your house has like a deeper wall box, or do you find that you're still like squishing cables in there and doing that kind of thing?
So for you Australian listeners, we don't need Sparkies to come do our own stuff. We can we can do it ourselves. But the whoever the electricians were for the subcontractor who did my new place were fantastic. At my old place, they used the light switches as like junction boxes to connect
same
random other stuff, and I just couldn't fit things in there, and it was so annoying. But here they've minimized that. They did a nice any wall plate I've opened is nice and deep and clean, and like there's only the wires necessary. It's wonderful. I really, whoever my subcontractors were, like, super thumbs up. Thank you. But now that you mentioned Lutron, that's the other thing I've been playing with is I want to get automated blinds when my budget recovers. And they seem to have the ones that one of my neighbors has them, and they're awesome. Like I don't know if he uses Home Assistant, but they open and close like with the angle of the sun. Like I've talked to them. They're wonderful. So if I'm doing that, do I just go go in on the Lutron light switches as well for the automations. Do you use their bridge, Rohan, to get it into Home Assistant?
I do, yeah. It's a bit of a hack to get it to work. So I think they use some proprietary version of, like, I don't know, probably Zigbee or something like that. So it's not, you can't just use a standard Zigbee stick. I think you have to use their bridge. And then there's like two versions of the bridge. There's like the basic one and the plus, or whatever they call it. The plus, I think, allows you to like telnet into the box, or like do whatever, and then pull a certificate out. The normal one, which is what I have, you need to do like this like whole little thing where you go in and run a script, and that script may or may not work. Try another script, whatever. Pull out the certificates for it, and then because Home Assistant needs those certificates for it to work. So so once you have those certificates, then it's been solid since. I mean, I think I've had to do it once, and that was it. But other than that, it was so once you have that, then everything talks to the bridge. But as you add new devices and stuff, it just kind of pops up. It works really well, and it has been, knock on wood, super solid, right?
So does that bridge get updates? Because my concern is, if I go all in on this, they pull a who's the remote control company that closed up their stuff?
Oh God,
Logitech.
Logitech. Do they pull a Logitech and lock that down? And I spent all this money and now I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And like, brick it. Yeah, it's entirely possible. One of the things I do like about it is it is still locally controlled, so it's not cloud control.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, do I do this? But the Logitech stuff was locally controlled, and then they locked it down. Like, so is it connected? Like, I haven't done enough research on it, and we're probably going down a rabbit hole here, but is it internet connected as well, or is it just all local?
It is internet connected. The Home Assistant integration, I think, hits it locally. So technically, if you break that internet connection, I haven't tried it because I'm kind of like, all right, whatever. I've spent all this money. I guess I'm in. But if you do block it, I think it should still work. Maybe that's something I should try. I don't know, but yeah.
I would assume so. I just don't want them to pull a Logitech after I spend gobs of money. Doing all that.
Well, that's my biggest fear, because I only have Lutron switches, and I've got a couple of their Pico remotes and stuff like that, because just stupid bylaws that are by me. It's like my guest bathroom doesn't have light switches inside it, so I've had to use the remote. It's actually outside of it, and not even on the outside, like the outside wall of it. It's on a it's on the next wall next to it, right? So I've got a little hallway right outside my door here, and it's on the far wall, not on the same wall that you share with the guest bathroom, which is right next door to me here. It's the dumbest thing. So I put, and literally one, I think I mentioned this on the podcast, but we had a guest stay over, and she literally showered in the dark. She's like, I don't know where this is. And we were still asleep. And she was like, I'm just going to shower in the dark. And I was like, oh my goodness. That's not acceptable for that's not an experience I want for anybody that comes to visit my house.
Identify the problem, design the solution.
100%. And but they do have these really cool wall plates, right? That the Pico remotes fit into, and it looks like an actual switch. So I'm like, okay, that's really neat. So we did that, but so I do really, really like the product. I mean, full disclosure, they did send us like a media kit once and stuff, but that's because of how much I talk about it and how much I use their products. I do genuinely like their stuff, right? But yeah, to your point, Mike, I'm like, please don't pull a Logitech, right? As much as I'm all in on local control, but there's certain, again, and a big thing for me is it's just the depth of my wall box, because behind each one of my wall boxes, I have like 17 neutral cables just like cranked together, right? And it's like so fat, and can't do it.
That was my old house. Thankfully, not my new one, because the Innovelli ones are quite chunky. So
yeah. But
Rohan, with those remotes, how do you find, like, is there the possibility that you can just pull it off the wall and take it with you? Mm-hmm. Can you then like lose it in the back of the couch? Is there a find remote button that you can use?
There's not. I mean, I only use it where I put it up on the wall, so that's that's hopefully not a concern. Depending on how well my screws hold up, but yeah. Other than that, I technically I do have one that's floating around somewhere. I couldn't tell you where it is, so I guess, but there is no find functions, at least that I know of. Maybe there is, and I just never looked. But yeah, there isn't. So you probably will lose in the back of your couch. So
fair enough.
But
just leave it on the wall, Phil, and don't worry about it.
Just keep it simple.
I think that's the answer. Yeah. Well, I think just put motion sensors in the bathroom so that when guests come over, they don't have to find a light switch. The lights just turn on for them. I think that's the real answer.
I thought about that, and I polled a couple of people, and they were like, "That's too creepy." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, cool." because that's what I figured right? too, right? And I was like,
"Yeah."
That's why I was hesitant. That's why I asked, and people are like, "Please don't do that." I'm like,
"Yeah,
right, cool.
that would scare my mother-in-law." So don't. That's a design no.
Well, it would. I'm just thinking, even for me, if I went into somebody else's bathroom, full well knowing exactly what a motion sensor looks like, I'd be like, kind of weird.
Yeah, just put a towel over that thing. Yeah, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Although with these new like Xiaomi sensors that like the presence sensors that I got,
did you get an FP1, Phil?
Yeah, I've got like 7 of them.
Are they good?
They're really good. I mentioned it on the last release episode. I love them.
Yeah, you compared the standard PIR or whatever.
Yeah. The only annoying there is one situation where I was sitting on the couch, and the thing was directed right at me, and I must have been, I don't know, I must have held my breath or something, but this thing just detected that I wasn't on the couch anymore, and it turned the TV off on me.
Oh no.
So yeah, it's not like there are some random situations where if you don't move enough, I guess it will detect that there's no one in the room, but it's very rare that I've
they're
seen
like millimeter wave something or other.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Apparently it's supposed to be so precise that it can pick up breathing, right? So when your chest is moving in and out, it will detect differences.
I've been keeping an eye on those, and do I order some on AliExpress and just get them?
I think so. Yeah. So I only wanted to get these high precision ones in things like where you're going to be stationary, right? So bedroom when you're asleep, or like lying down watching the TV in the bedroom. Same thing on the couch, right? But the other thing I also thought of, and on the toilet, right? So if you've got the bathroom and you're not moving, or you're in the shower and you're not.
We just talked about not putting those in the bathroom.
I know, and this is why now all of a sudden I didn't realize Rohan you'd gone out to town and surveyed people. That would have been information I could have used to not buy so many of these sensors.
That's right. Phil's actually got 4 in each bathroom. He's got 1 in each corner.
Every corner, right?
Just ship those extra ones my way, Phil. I'll put them to good use.
But yeah, so that was my plan. Because they are really good at detecting when people leave.
Yeah.
So the problem with your standard motion sensor is you walk into a room, it then has a delay, right? As long as it doesn't see motion, then it's marked as person's away. But with this, because it's so precise, within 30 seconds of someone leaving a room, it turns things off.
But those have to be plugged in, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Powered. Yeah,
powered. And the USB cord's really short on it, and it's But I mean, when you want something that high precision, I guess you have to.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway. I'm toying with doing what I have right now in a few rooms are those Ecobee remote temperature sensors, and that's what I have in the nursery. That's how I get the temperature of their room on my watch. And I, our current schedule is wake up, get them dressed, get them breakfast, send them off to daycare, and of course I'm usually down making breakfast while my wife's getting them dressed, and she forgets to turn the light off in the room and all the lights upstairs. So I've got a delay. The Ecobee presence sensor has a delay, but I have an additional delay on it because sometimes it's up higher on a shelf, and of course the girls are only so high. So and usually if they're in there, we're sitting on the floor or whatever. I don't want the lights to turn off, so I have this weird long extended sequence to be okay, there's definitely nobody in the room. Turn it off. So maybe one of those in their room, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely like that, and that's why I think they are really handy, right? Like just that the small movements, like someone small sitting on the ground playing with Lego or something, right? Like it will
Yeah.
detect enough movement there.
I found that the Ecobee sensors are very slow to update. Like they're good overall from a temperature perspective because it's like, okay, eventually when I'm in the room, I want comfort, stuff like that. But I found that for a presence, it's kind of not
I
great.
got a pro tip for you, Rohan, that I found out.
Okay.
It took me a while. I got really annoyed with having to refresh
Yeah.
the you have to do the developer credentials to use HomeKit, the local HomeKit integration
Yeah.
in Home Assistant to integrate your Ecobee. The presence on is instant.
Really? Okay. Because I find
Yeah,
even for
not
it to talk to the main base, I guess, or whatever, the thermostat, it's typically fairly inaccurate. Like not inaccurate, but like it's
no
fairly takes like 10 minutes.
no. So this is like maybe 30 seconds to a minute. It's pretty quick
Oh, that's
now.
not bad. Okay.
Not going through the cloud. There's another don't need to use the internet. My ISP's been having some awful packet loss lately, so
Yeah.
like there's just not. I don't have to worry about that. It's fairly instantaneous now on someone triggering a in presence on using that local HomeKit integration instead of going through the developer cloud path where you need to update
Yeah.
every couple months. I just got
Oh,
pissed
I
off with
hate
that.
that. Yeah.
So
I actually haven't
yeah,
had to do
I
it
got really annoyed.
in a very long time, and I'm kind of surprised that I haven't. But
Maybe they've changed
longer
it,
tokens, I don't know.
but
Yeah.
you had to refresh the tokens every so often. It was annoying, but
Yeah.
now no tokens. You just use a HomeKit. I think it's controller integration.
Yeah.
It auto detects the Ecobee. You got to go. You have to walk to the thermostat. It's got like a pairing code, and then you're done. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's been rocking. The only thing I find slow using that method is if you change the temperature, the mode, it doesn't propagate out to the actual thermostat as quick. It still happens, but you don't have that instant feedback, which is I don't do that often.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of automations that I just let the Ecobee do the home and away thing. So it, I keep it simple, let it do its smarts. But for the presence, and even the temperature updating, it's much quicker.
Okay, that's good to know. I might have to play with that. I've been wanting to play with the HomeKit stuff after our episode with Rosemary. I've been wanting to do more kind of HomeKit focused stuff. I just haven't had cycles, but this might actually be the motivator to do it.
Yeah, and that Rosemary's use of HomeKit, I'd already been thinking about it and was trying to get my head wrapped around it. And as soon as she came on, a whole bunch of light bulbs came on in my head. I had, and off the top of the show, you're saying the contest. I used to have an Android box for like my TV and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It started doing weird stuff, and I think the hardware was failing. The power supply on it was going bad, but I ended up replacing with an Apple TV. And the way I had, and this is one of the other automations, when you hit the button on the outside of the nursery, it with the Android, you got to turn on like Android debugging mode and do a bunch of stuff. But essentially, what I had to do was power on, and it would turn on the TV just through CEC control, and then it would open VLC app and then give it a specific stream, RTSP stream to go to for have a Unify camera in their bedroom. Nice. So we can see them on the TV downstairs. And of course, you can't just direct play a stream to Apple TV because Apple. But I had already added the camera into the HomeKit integration so that, manually on the Apple TV, you'd go downstairs, you turn on the TV, you hold a button, you have to go to a menu, and then you can bring the camera up. Mm-hmm. And I had been sort of playing with how do I
automate that.
I had a gross automation that was like, okay, turn on the TV through the Apple TV, wait 30 seconds. Okay, hold the menu button because you can do that through the automations. And then like, okay, navigate down to
down,
and then
right,
over one,
over,
just so gross and like so brittle. It would work like 3 or 5 times. And I had been told, I was like, okay, I know you can do like doorbells and all this other stuff. And then Rosemary came on and it was like, oh yeah, you can create your own input booleans and like map them to stuff in HomeKit, and like it can pretend to be a doorbell, and light bulb came on and I'm like, oh wait, I can do this. So when you hit the nap mode, I think I have another input boolean that you can have it turn on and then automatically turn back off again after a few seconds, and I have that exposed into HomeKit as a doorbell.
Right.
So now what happens is the automation is turn on the TV, wait 15, 30 seconds. That's never been the part that's been brittle. And then what happens is you push the doorbell button through the automation, and it pops up a notification on the Apple TV. And it's got a component where if you hit the menu button on the remote, it'll bring it full screen. And so that's the new sequence now. And it's been working great. I think it's failed maybe once, but I think it was because we didn't turn the TV off. It had a movie going or something for the girls. So like not a normal use case, but now we went to a friend's wedding last weekend. My sister, their aunt was over watching them, and she's like, oh, the camera's on. I didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to teach me how to use the camera. It just worked. So, thanks to Rosemary, like always get some inspiration from somebody every episode. And that was like a big, just in time for having a babysitter come over to get the camera to work on just perfect timing. So
Mike's up until 5 in the morning, just like, okay, I got to get this working. All wired up.
No.
So is that you push the button and the camera feed will now show up through the Apple TV automatically, or does it pop up and then you have to push something on the Apple TV remote to then get it to go into full screen first?
So you have to do that, but the Apple TV integration in HomeKit, in Home Assistant, exposes all those buttons as an action.
Oh, nice.
So so it's hit the doorbell input boolean. It causes the notification to show up, and then I think I have a wait 5 seconds, push the menu button on the remote through the automation, and then it goes full screen. So it just works, and it's been great.
Yeah. Before, do you actually see it like popping down, like with your original automation? Do you actually see it like going like boop? Boop,
you'd
boop,
see
boop,
it,
boop, like whatever.
You'd see the selected item, and like after they had fallen asleep, at 10 o'clock at night, I'm like my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't worry about it. And hey, it works. She's like, oh, it works again. That's great. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work great, but it's better than it was. So.
Yeah, I used to have one of those automations, and it would one button wouldn't get pressed in the sequence, and then it would start playing something completely different, right? Or you don't know what it was doing, and then
this works a lot better. There's still some timing to it, but I've got it dialed in, and it just, I think 9.5 times out of 10 it works every time. So
on the timing, have you considered, or is there any states that you can wait for? So I found, because I've got some NFC card readers, and so I've got cards, Bluey or Frozen, tap the card and it will go through a sequence, right? Similar to you, turn on the TV, open up Plex on the Fire TV, wait for Plex to be ready, and then send Plex a command to show the movie or TV show. What I found was, instead of having to wait, 30 seconds and hoping that the Plex client would be available, I could then see the status of the app changing. And then in Home Assistant, instead of doing a delay, I'd do a wait. And then as soon as that condition was met, it would then proceed immediately. And that just reduced the timing greatly.
Yeah. So not for this note, there's no state for that notification showing. And even if it's full screen, the app that's active in Apple TV is what was running.
Right. So if you've got Netflix open, then Netflix would still be.
Netflix is still the thing. Yeah. So on your point, my kids also love Bluey. That's a wonderful show with anybody with kids. If anyone listening, it's really wholesome.
It is.
And right now, if they want to watch something, we still kind of are the gatekeepers to when they have time and when we're letting them do that. But eventually, and I think someone else, I forget their name, many podcasts ago, they had like a credit balance system with their kids.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to go
James.
that complicated, but I could probably,
Yeah.
whoever it was, I've kept that in the back of my head of, I don't think I want to do that complicated of a system, but I could probably go, okay, they get home from school, they have this time window to watch something and, get those NFC cards, and this one's Bluey and whatever.
Yeah.
And they can tap it, it'll turn on the TV, it'll launch Plex and play the episode. I want to go down that route, but it hasn't been necessary yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also don't have the time to set up all the NFC cards into them and stuff. So,
yeah, well, right. Like I've set them up, but and I think it works on the living room TV. Last time I checked, anyway. But my daughter, she knows what the card is. She's tapped it a few times, but she would rather just pull herself up on the couch and grab the TV remote and mash the remote for as long as possible. And eventually the TV will somehow do its thing, or someone will come and put the show on for her.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you were previously using like Android for this. Was there like a similar flow? Like, was there a certain camera type? Because I'm considering, like, I've got a camera here with an RTSP. Like, were you able to like show the camera feed live through the Android box as well?
Yeah, I think I'd have to go look at my my Git history on that automation, but I think the flow there was, turn on the Android box, and the way the ADB debugging tools worked is you could basically say run VLC with this parameters, and you just pass it the RTSP stream, and it would just open and play it for you. So
okay, and that was going to be my next question, like why using VLC? So I'm guessing VLC you can then pipe it to the RTSP stream.
Yeah, you just pass it the parameter, and it just worked. Whereas the Apple TV doesn't let you do that, so it's a whole other thing.
Yeah, well, of course it is. What is your number one favorite automation that you've got right now?
It's just got to be all the stuff around the kids. Yeah. It simplifies a whole bunch of things. Like those are the problems that I notice, and identify the problem, create the solution for it. Where I want to get to is when I have the time and the budget is, have it something, and I've played with those. I've got I've got lots of ESP devices that I tinker with when I have time. ESP Home's fantastic. I've got, what I want to get to is like follow me room to room. Like if nobody's in the room, turn off the lights, whatever. And the problem is, I've got my watch. My wife doesn't have one. She'll leave her phone in like a random room, so I can't depend on that. Yeah. So maybe go down the FP1 route, but what I really need to get, and the girls are 2.5. They don't have phones. They don't have watches. How do I know when they're home or not? So actually, now that I think about it, you're reminding me, my favorite automation right now is the reminder to go pick them up from daycare. So, you're working.
This isn't
you're
the
working
bad
away.
Parenting podcast. This is the home assistant
No,
podcast.
this is the force yourself to do things to make your life easier podcast. Yeah. And the problem was, you're working away, you're focused on a task with work, you're just solving problems. I code for a living, so you just get in the zone.
Yep.
And then you look at the time, you're like, oh crap, I got to pick him up in 5 minutes. Yeah. Let's go.
Or they're calling you saying, hey, we're about to charge you overtime fees.
I haven't had that happen yet.
That's nice.
Good. I've been good. Never had that yet. This solves the problem though. So essentially what I have is an automation that I use the proximity integration, and I've got a zone at their daycare. So I've got it keyed off of either my phone or what I find more reliable, because it updates much more frequently, is I have a Model Y, a Tesla, and I can get to how I'm getting that into Home Assistant in a second. But if my phone or the car enters the proximity zone of the daycare, set a date time input and for I think I have it set for 3:45 in the afternoon, and it does, when that triggers, it just pushes a critical notification to my through the Home Assistant app to my phone, and it makes a big loud sound on my watch or my phone, and that reminds, like, knock me out of the focus that I might be in. Yeah. And the other nice thing about having an electric vehicle is you can just with your phone, you say, start
warm up the car,
conditioning the interior, right? Warm up the car, but right now it's cool down the car because it's summer and it's stinking hot outside. And the car is 40 degrees, like just bring it. So what stinks is that I never got to play with the Tesla integration before it got removed from Home Assistant a while ago. And what would have been nice is what I'm doing right now is that manually also reminds me to hit the HVAC button on the app so when I get outside, the car's ready to go. And what would be great is if I could do that automatically without having to think about it, and still have that reminder to be like, oh yeah, wake up, it's time to go. So that one right now is probably my new favorite. There's a manual human in the loop step to it because I physically have to go pick the kids up. But
on tracking the kids, so I have a 2-year-old daughter, so she is no phone, no like sense
implants, nothing,
no anything, right? No, nothing, right? But we do have her a change bag, I guess, like nappies, and that's her, her nuclear football, right? Like that goes with her everywhere. So I put a little tile tracker in there, one of those Bluetooth trackers. Now, obviously, she doesn't have a phone, so if she's out by herself for whatever reason, a 2-year-old, decides to take herself out with her backpack.
Or one of you should probably find out if that happens.
I'm assuming her grandparent might be with her at that point, but they'll still have the nuclear football. Because they don't have like the tile app installed, what I instead do is I have I'm using Room Assistant around the house, and that then can see the tile tracker when it's in the house. So if I know that tile tracker has left the house, I know that my daughter has left the house.
So you mentioned that. I literally just ordered some Bluetooth, not tile, but low energy things. I ordered 2 of them. Now my problem is, so what I have right now is I'm using a Bayesian sensor to sort of guess whether they're home or not.
I was going to say that, and that's another thing too, right? I've got a Bayesian sensor for my wife and for my daughter to say, are they home, right?
So is it a work day? They're probably at daycare. Did I visit that proximity zone for daycare today?
Interesting. Wow, you gone to that level.
So like if they're sick, which happens all the time now, and because COVID, you can't take them if you're like, even if they got a runny nose. So, and
you still got to pay.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, I still got to pay for the. Yeah, exactly. So this is why I don't have money to buy more light switches and things. But one of the things I do on weekends is they're napping at home still, and like turn on the little fan I have in their room to start cooling it down like an hour ahead of nap time. But don't do that when they're not home. I haven't actually integrated the Bayesian sensor yet because I haven't tuned it quite right. Like I have it. It shows up on my watch, so I know like visually, like, okay, it's on, it's off. And I haven't quite tuned it right because right now it's on. They're home, but they're not. My wife has taken them off to our family has a trailer up by a town with a beach here. They're not home right now, but all my automations for them are like the fan's been turning on yesterday and today for nap time and bedtime, like that pre-cool. I'm like, oh crap, I got to turn that off. So I literally just ordered some low energy trackers, and I think I want to feed that into the Bayesian sensor because there's the nuclear football. We're potty training, so it doesn't always leave the house with us. Like if we're going on a long trip or an extended time away from the house, yes. But if we're going to the park, it's not going with us. So, it's trying to figure that out. Next year they're going to go to school, so maybe I'll like sew them into their backpacks, and then I know individually when they're home.
Or like
So
in their
yeah,
like,
I haven't gotten there yet.
I don't know, in like a belt loop or something like that. If they're wearing something with a belt loop, right? Like, but
I figure their bags are going with them to school,
yeah.
right? So yeah, I haven't.
If you're a kid like me,
That's
your bags aren't ever going to be attached to you. Your bag's going to be in one end of the house, and I'm going to be somewhere else. So.
well, that's the beauty of this new uh, the
The
Bluetooth
ESP home,
proxy
Bluetooth thing,
ESP
yeah.
home thing.
Yeah.
Like I've got a couple of those elsewhere, and I've been playing with ESP Presence, which is kind of like Room Assistant.
Yep.
I haven't got it quite dialed in yet, and I haven't actually had time to like, you have to do those little
Yep.
adjustments to like bring down the range and stuff. I haven't had time to do that, but it kind of breaks my design philosophy and make it simple. If my wife doesn't remember to bring her phone with her to every room, it just doesn't work, and it would only be to my benefit.
Yeah.
So, maybe sticking one of those FP1s. Actually, my wife's desk is like right beside me. And if I stick one in the corner, because she'll come down and be working in the dark, and I'll come down with my coffee and my breakfast, and my hands are full, and it's just like I'm going to trip on some toys because I can't see anything. So if it knew that she was down here, it would turn on the lights, and then when I come down after I take the kids to daycare and come back, and I've got coffee and breakfast and my laptop under one arm, I'm not I'm not dying on some toys that I can't see. So that's sort of where it's at.
What Bluetooth low energy tracker did you go with?
So I forget what they're called. Actually, I got one right here. These, I'm using this for the doorbell. There's these like M5 Atom switches. So there's this little ESP device right here that's attached to the relay and all that jazz. These you can get on their own, and that is what's doing the detection. Once I get this all set up, but for tracker, I've so far just been using my watch when I've had time to kind of play with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm going to go down that route, as I just mentioned, because it would only benefit me, and my wife doesn't want an Apple Watch or anything like that, so it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And honestly, with her, she'd take it off and leave it somewhere to charge, and then never wear it for the rest of the day. So it's useless anyway.
Exactly what mine does.
I think with anything like this way, if you've got like the room sensors, right, it's agnostic to whoever it is, right? It could be a grandparent down there playing with kids, right? It could be your wife working. It could be anyone. It doesn't have to be someone wearing a device that you know what the device ID is, and I think it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, there was a period where the kids weren't in daycare, but we were still working, and my parents were coming over for like one day, and my sister-in-law would come over and help us because my parents were retired and my sister-in-law wasn't working at the time. And it was like, I was trying to add in tracking their devices. I've also got Unify set up as device tracker. So in Home Assistant, I've got my person and my wife's person. You can add multiple devices, right? So I've got it tracking both our Home Assistant app and the Wi-Fi presence on the network, and that's been rock solid. I haven't had any issues with our home and away status. But when I was trying to track parents and grandparents, it wasn't. I didn't have the time to go into their phone and say, in Apple, you have to say, don't randomize my MAC address. That just wasn't working.
All that privacy stuff, yeah.
So I have another input that's sort of like guests are present, and the way I'm doing that is I don't have it hooked up to any automations yet because it hasn't solved a problem yet, but it's ready to go when I need it. But essentially, if any device is connected to, I've got a separate guest network, and on the Unify side of things, I think I have a template that counts the number of devices on the guest network. And if just anybody's connected to that, I know a guest is here. Like if a babysitter is going to be here that's not our family, like they're going to want on the Wi-Fi, right? Like that's a pretty good given. So it'll count how many guests are there, and if it's greater than 0, it's on. I haven't wired it up to anything yet, but I'm sure I'll get there because I don't have any automations that turn off the lights at like midnight or whatever. I just manually turn them off as I go, or I tell the Amazon lady, hey, do the good night sequence, and it just turns everything off. But I don't have everything shuts off at midnight type thing. So I don't have anything to worry about yet. But
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get there. Is even if we go for vacation, is someone here watching the dog or something, like it hasn't been a problem I've had to solve yet.
Well, I've had the same thing, like, when grandparents are home and, my wife and I both leave the house. I would have, the house would turn on the alarm panel to say, and that would shut everything down, right? But then obviously grandparents are home with, looking after our daughter. Oh, sorry. All of a sudden they're watching TV. They'll be watching Bluey, right? And TV goes off.
Yeah.
Not ideal. So now I've
No.
got just send a notification to my phone, right? Do you want to has everyone left the house, right?
Yeah.
As just a fail safe.
So are you using what are you using for the alarm panel? Is it Alarmo?
Yes, Alarmo. Yeah, so I don't have a physical alarm panel, but it is like a software version, which is the Alarmo component in Home Assistant.
Yeah, my friend just started using that, and he said it's fantastic. And I just put it on my to-do list because I haven't had time to figure it out.
It's awesome. Like, just the way you put in, this is a zone. You can create multiple zones. There's a master one if you want to use it. I found it a bit annoying to use the master one at the moment. I'm thinking about getting rid of it. But yeah, you just put in, this sensor belongs to this zone. You can put like night mode, away mode, vacation mode, and that'll creates all the applicable entities in Home Assistant. It's awesome.
So does it, like, if it's armed and it detects motion, does it like play big scary alarms through your Sonos speakers or something, or like what does it do?
Eventually, yeah, I haven't got it doing anything except for sending me an alert at the moment.
Oh, okay. So it's just
phone, like, use the app. Yeah. You can, like, so once the alarm is triggered, you can get Home Assistant to do any automation you want. So it really,
Oh, so
Alarmo is not like what it will do. Alarmo is basically just the control panel. You would then need to program what actions Home Assistant takes when
right.
alarm is
So
triggered.
it fuses all those sensors together and gives one thing back to Home Assistant to say alarm or not, and then you have to design the rest of it. Is that
pretty much? Yeah. So you would say, okay, let's say like you've got your garage, right? So you would say, all right, there's the basement motion sensor, the garage motion sensor, this door, and all that. You can do like, and then depending on the mode, like if a motion sensor is if it detects motion, then it would know, okay, this zone has this motion sensor. It's now in its arm state, so now we need to trigger the alarm, and that just changes the alarm control panel entity in Home Assistant from armed away to, I think it is alarming or alarmed, or it has a state. And from there, you can then do it like an automation in Home Assistant, right? Like if this alarm control panel goes to alarming state, then send this notification. Alarmo does have like some built-in, like you can use any notify service. So from the Alarmo UI, you can say, all right, if the alarm panel is triggered, send this notification to this notification service. But yeah, if you wanted to do like sirens or anything like fire off a script, you would do that outside yourself in your own automation.
So you have to trigger off the alarming and do what you want. It doesn't do that for you. It just kind of fuses all that together for you.
Yeah. And now I'm a bit, hesitant to just go ahead and put a siren outside because I don't trust that, it won't accidentally be triggered by me testing an automation, and then I don't want to annoy my neighbors. So, but I do want to eventually get, maybe like a Twilio integration so it will phone me when something happens, because it is. I've seen a couple of times, alarm is triggered because something's moved, or there's a motion sensor that's accidentally triggered. But it would be nice to actually know, okay, hang on, we're all out of the house and motion's just been detected. Maybe it's not just a phone app notification, it should be a phone call to say something's not right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
I think my friend set it up. His Sonos speakers will play a thing or something. Get out of the house, I'm coming home. Like, yeah. The other thing is, you mentioned my garage. It's still internet connected MyQ, which it broke frequently for the longest time. They were changing stuff.
I've got one of those. So we have down here, like, they're all different brands, right? And I can see like it's MyQ integrated. I was like, I'll just buy the module, right? And then I saw on the Home Assistant forums, like everyone's like, don't go MyQ. It's rubbish.
It was so rubbish. It broke so often. I think there was this cat and mouse game going on, and I got to the point where I've actually soldered on wires to the button to do it myself, and I haven't gotten angry enough to have to do it because it hasn't broken in a while.
Yeah.
It's on my to-do list when I have time to do those things, but it hasn't broken in a long time. So either the MyQ people stop messing with their API, or whatever the community came up with for a solution is just worked. So thank you to those guys.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna try and go like a HomeKit controller. I'm an Android guy. We don't have many
Yeah.
Apple stuff, but because the HomeKit stuff's local, right? If I can find a HomeKit controller and then just integrate it straight into Home Assistant, I think that'd be ideal. Just because all it is a relay, right? Like just open up the garage. So
push this button.
Yeah, that's on my to-do list at one point. But Mike, thank you so much. So Rohan's internet just decided to randomly die. I think as he does. So Rohan is gone. But Mike, really appreciate you coming on. You've got some awesome stuff, and certainly going to help me out with my automations for my daughter. I think got some good ideas from you.
Yeah, feel free to send me a message on Discord or whatever. You know where to find me. So
Yeah,
really appreciate coming on. I listen to it every time it comes out. It always inspires me with something. Someone always has a great idea. So I really appreciate you guys doing this every couple of weeks or whatever. So
yeah, no, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
Cheers. If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@haspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant Podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics we discussed today, check out our show notes on haspodcast.io.